contestant number 1. Scott Adams. It's in the card. It's in the card. Scott Adams.
It was October 17th, my sister's 13th birthday. And everyone had bought presents, except me. But at the last minute, to save the day, I had gone to the dime store and purchased a card. Now I have to tell you that birthdays in my household were a big deal. And the 13, that was the biggest. And when I got home, there, stacked perfectly on the dining room table, was a gift from everyone in my family, almost. So my sister, in the eagerness of the party, began to tear into the presents one by one. Each time she passed her hand near the envelope, but not quite. And finally, they were all gone. And only the card was left. She picked it up and looked at it. And in the tone that only your 13-year-old sister can create, she said, "No gift?" And in the way that every younger brother is entitled to respond, I lied. I said, "It's in the card." She tore open the card and read the little verse on the inside and my loving inscription. And then she began to search in the envelope. She looked at me and reported that there was no money inside. I was shocked. Do you know that we must have spent 10 minutes searching through all of that torn wrapping paper looking for my $20 bill? And the whole time, Madam Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, she knew exactly what you know right now. There was no money. And yet, some 40 years later, she still loves me. There's something about a card. You couldn't give somebody an empty box and get away with it. But the card is special. And I think that is why we spend the majority of our primary school years learning the fine art of card making. On Mother's Day, you make a card. On Father's Day, you make a card. On Valentine's Day, you make a whole lot of cards. A little glitter and glue and elbow macaroni, and everybody's impressed. Everybody's happy. Now, thankfully, most of us leave these kinds of things behind. But not me. By the time I was in college, I realized that girls love the homemade card. Well, sometimes my friends, my buddies, would come by and knock on my door and say, "Hey, Scott, let's go get a beer and go out and play tackle football on the intramural parking lot." And I would say, "Sure thing, guys. Just let me slip on some shorts and put away my crayons." I know they were good cards. As a matter of fact, I know a beautiful girl who has held on to those cards for over 20 years. That girl is my wife. And they must have been good cards for her to have married me. What is it about the card? I think that it's because a card is a genuine sense of emotion in our email, auto-format way of lives these days. We can hold it. We can touch it. We can read the inscription again and again and feel that twinge of excitement. You know, the best card that I ever gave, well, it wasn't really even a card. It was a church bulletin. You see, I knew that Father's Day was coming, but I hadn't bought a card or a gift. And so I knew I was going to see my dad that day, and so I just wrote a few little notes in it to give to my dad. Some things I'd learned about being a father myself, and all the ways that I appreciated what he had done for me. Now, admittedly, this was the cheapest gift I'd ever given before in my life. It was funny, because my father passed away 1.5 years ago. And my sisters and I, we went to his house to sort of clean up his effects. And there, in his sock drawer, was my note. I imagine in my head him going through the daily mundane task of putting on his socks and his shoes and seeing that note and remembering how I feel. Did you know that he kept that note for over 15 years? And I suspect that I will keep it that long, now that it's in my sock drawer. Something magic about a card. You know, I love to give a card, but more than that, I love to get a card. So on my last birthday, it was funny because I was going out to the mailbox and I saw it from a distance. It looked like a card. It felt like a card. It was a card. It had the familiar curve of my sister's handwriting on it. But just then, I received a telephone call. And it was my sister, and I was forced to ask her an important question. Was there any money in it? And she lied. But there was this. Scott, I think I may be one of the luckiest sisters in the world to have a brother like you. I love you, and I admire you, and I'm amazed at your patience and talents. I'm so proud that you're my brother. There are 3 things that I know, and I know that I know. First, my sister terribly overestimates me. 2, she loves me. And 3, she put it in the card.